Clap.
Oh,
That's
really
hilarious.
good. I love it. Coming up on Verse, Chorus, Verse, Bob Rock, he makes everything better, right? Does he? That's next. Welcome to Verse, Chorus, Verse, episode 198 and
Yikes.
probably 199. How are ya? I am DL. With me is Rachel. Probably loves Canada polio. Rachel, how are you?
I think Canadians are so nice.
They are really nice.
I know a lot of
that's-
Canadians.
Why do you know a lot of Canadians?
Because I work at a nuclear laboratory that attracts people from around the world.
And a lot of them are Canadian?
We have a handful of Canadians, yeah.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have expected that. There are many other countries I would have thought of before Canada.
Also, one of my sister-in-laws is Canada.
She's
Canadian.
a Canada.
A Canada Canadian. Yeah.
Idaho.
Wait, did you just say one of your sister-in-laws?
Yeah. I'm married. I have a bunch. He had a big family.
And one of them was born in Canada?
And one of them was born in Canada.
That's sus.
I don't get it, but that's fine. Also with us is Evil, probably hates Canada, Jimmy.
Why would I hate
Evil.
Canada?
How are you? You've talked more shit about Canada on this podcast. God,
Seriously?
If I had the time to edit, I would pull up. I
No
would
way.
just right now. I would insert like the 12 times.
That'd be
Evil's been like,
amazing.
Evil. I'm gonna give you one word, and it'll all come back to you. Drake.
Fair.
We can't blame
Justin Bieber.
Canada for that.
I was under the
Pamela
impression we
Anderson?
can blame Canada.
Oh man. Blame Canada. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, speaking of Canada, you guys, we've got a band from the Great North that we are going to talk about today.
Canadians. Yeah.
I, for one, am very excited. I've been an Our Lady Peace fan since Clumsy came out. And
Ooh.
we will talk about how that fandom has grown or dissipated or what have you. Before we get to that, Rachel, how is your shoulder doing?
It is reattaching itself. It's so
What
bad.
How long did they give you to heal for that?
So I have this very fancy sling on, and I am not supposed to take it off for 6 weeks. And then there's some rehabilitation afterwards. So I'll go to physical therapy afterwards. So to kind of see how things look. And then when I can start washing my own hair again.
Shoulders are stupid joints.
They
They
are.
really are.
They're a wannabe ball and socket.
Yeah. Shoulders are the knees of the upper body.
Somehow
Evil.
that's racist, but I'll take it.
Evil, you're also doing really, really well today.
I'm all right now. I had a rough night. I don't know if it was something I ate or I'm sure it was. I woke up at like
It was.
5 in the morning with sharp pains in my stomach and like heaved up my guts. I felt immediately better.
You look skinny.
Oh, you puked.
Yeah.
Oh, I was under the impression there was some other end stuff going on.
That too.
Oh, well, that's man.
Oh. This is
Okay.
a family show.
Imagine if a tube of toothpaste had 2 openings and God just reached down and squeezed
Oh
me.
my God, stop.
I've been there. I know what you're
Have
feeling.
you ever like your mouth starts watering? You're not nauseous, but you're just like, oh fuck, I think I'm gonna throw up.
You know it's coming.
Like my mouth was just like watering like crazy, and I'm like, oh fuck, okay, here we go. And it just one heave, and then I felt instantly better. It was awesome.
That's good because
Yay.
I think that feeling, that water of the mouth nauseous thing is my least favorite thing that a human could possibly like. Like every time it happens to me, I'm not a Christian man, but I'm like, God, just fucking get me out of this right now, and I will do anything you want. Like it's the worst.
Ugh.
How are you,
Okay,
David?
so I'm doing great, everybody. I've had a cough for like 5 weeks, but I feel fantastic. I've got a day off. I'm loving it. And I get to talk about Our Lady Peace.
Yay.
You know, screw you guys. I'm doing great. You must not be doing too bad, Rach. You're going to see a movie today?
Yeah, they have these. There's a really small theater in town that just revamped and put in like recliner chairs.
What are you seeing?
We're gonna go see the Garfield movie.
Jesus Christ.
Which I'm not a huge Chris Pratt fan, but the kid,
I thought it was Bill Murray.
I think that might have
Is
been
there
an
another
old one.
Garfield?
Yeah, Chris
It
Pratt.
just came
Garfield
out.
now.
Yeah.
My God. Well, have fun with that.
Get it together. Yeah, I will. Thanks.
Our Lady Peace. What was your knowledge of them before studying for this?
I had heard the name Our Lady Peace. However, I had heard Our Lady of Peace. And so I have been calling them Our Lady of Peace for a while now.
Better name, I think.
But I did, I'm sure that happens to a lot of people. I had heard a lot of their songs. I did not put the two together. The songs.
Gotcha. So
the band.
really not heard it on the radio, not a fan, basically.
Correct.
I like it. That's kind of what I was hoping for going into this because I'm
You're
very
going to like it
intrigued
even better
to
later. You're going to get some good
hear
content,
your
buddy.
thoughts. I bet. Nobody has even studied for this yet. I have proof of it as of this morning. So
It's true.
This is going to be very interesting.
To be fair, I've been sedated for like a week and a half. I just woke up yesterday. So
Rachel, that's the best time to listen to music and watch movies. I promise it is.
no, I've been like
Oh, you've been knocked the fuck out.
dead to the world. Yeah.
Oh.
I had shoulder surgery, David.
Well, you're not even taking advantage of the time where you're allowed to be high. It is socially acceptable for you to be stoned right now.
I know, but I got really sick off the drug, so I was only high for like 5 days.
Lucky for me, and it's led to a lot of good things in my life, I don't have that problem. So. Evil, same question. 90, we'll get to when Clumsy came out. I mean, no, we can say it now because we've already talked about it before. 1997, Clumsy comes out. Mm-hmm. They're everywhere, at least for huge. One song.
Right.
Were you a fan? Were you onto other things at this point? Where were you at with them?
I was a fan before. So I was a fan.
Before Clumsy?
Yeah. I was a fan of
Wow.
Naveed. Like Starseed got radio play on whatever it was, Power 100, the X. I think it was, what was it in between those two?
Pirate Radio, the X. That's all I remember.
Pirate Radio, I think is what it was. So yeah, I knew of them. I was a fan before from probably
That's really cool.
Sometime in 1995.
I've known very few non-Canadians that knew of Our Lady Peace like from the jump. So it's very fitting that we're doing 1994. We've already talked about Naveed a little bit from the first quarter. I think this is kind of the perfect... Did you keep up with Our Lady Peace at all?
No. So interestingly, after Clumsy was huge. Like you said, it was everywhere here in the States. And then like for me, they weren't in circulation in anything I was listening to. So I kind of had forgotten about them. But when was it when we were doing our Google whatever?
That was probably 10 years ago.
Maybe. You had
at least
had turned me on to listening to Spiritual Machines. That's what she said. I saw your look there, Rachel.
There was a really big pause between Turn Me On and Spiritual Machines.
The whole one of the main reasons that this podcast even exists is because like a decade ago, Evil and another friend of ours and I, for like a year.
Oh, longer than that. It was longer than that.
Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, we would talk forever, but then for a specific while, we would all give each other albums. Mm-hmm. And then we would kind of like, after like a week, we'd kind of just write our thoughts on them.
Yeah.
And I loved it so much that I wanted to do something like this. And now we're here. So Spiritual Machines was one of the albums that I gave Evil. We're going to talk about that more later. Before we do, we got to start with the most important part of the morning. Mm-hmm. It is 8:20 a.m. for me, 9:20 a.m. for them. I'm really, really happy that Rachel needed to do this so early because nothing better than an excuse to drink at 8 a.m.
It started early.
Rachel, you can't take the drugs because they make you sick.
Right.
But you can self-medicate in the Americans. That means get drunk. So
That is so true.
But I bet you're not drinking.
You're correct in thinking that my stomach's still pretty messed up from getting ripped up from the drugs. So I am just hydrating so I don't dehydrate.
Wow, that was a dad joke. Hydrate so you don't dehydrate.
That was.
I'll go next. I'm maybe Evil and I are similar. I don't know. Now that Evil's stomach is in revolt, maybe he's not drinking. But I am drinking Irish coffee, and it's the exact same thing I've drank like 18 times on the show. I've got my 2 more ounces left of this Resurgent whiskey. That's what I'm drinking. 2.5 ounces. I'm ready to go. Evil, what about you?
I have 2 beverages.
Ooh.
I have
tea and water.
Electrolytes.
Yay. Smart.
Ultima Replenisher, very good. And I have a virgin boozy coffee, which is what I had planned on drinking this morning. Not the virgin version, but I'm like, maybe I shouldn't pour booze into my
He'll feel better later,
Yeah.
and we'll see where we are. We've got a long way to go. This is going to be a double episode. I am 90% sure. And then
double episode.
And then we're doing one more episode today talking about a very similar thing. We got to get to it because God forbid Rachel misses the first 2 minutes of Garfield, the movie starring Chris Pratt. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Our Lady Peace, those goddamn Toronto Maple Leafs, goddamn Maple Leafs, founded in 1992 in, yes, Toronto. Lead singer, Rain Maida, and I promise you that's how to pronounce it because it took me a very long time to actually figure it out. Yeah. Current members are Duncan Couts, Steve Mazur, Jason Pierce. They are a very, very, very typical band in the sense that they formed in the 90s and everybody left at one point. So there's been a lot of replacements. Started in 1992 and 1994, they come out with Naveed, their first album. You know, this is a band that worked really hard, but they didn't have that amount of, what do you call it, paying their dues or whatever, the typical amount. I don't know why. I don't know if that's just because, you know, people are like, holy shit, it's a really good Canadian band. We got to jump on this right now. I'm realizing as I started my little thing here that we have to do something first.
It's a friendship test.
The friendship test. We need to guess each other's favorite Our Lady Peace album. I'm going to start with Evil. Evil, what are Rachel and I's favorite Our Lady Peace albums?
So
not best, everyone. Favorite.
Here's the question. Are we, because
we are including Spiritual Machines.
Okay. We're including Spiritual Machines?
On the friendship test.
Okay. Then I will say for Rachel, Clumsy. And for you, that's tricky. Because this could be a...
It's tricky.
You know
it is tricky because...
Does he? In fact, if you go back and listen to the pod, I rarely end up having the favorite album of the bands. Or sorry, the 10 out of 10 that I pick ends up being my favorite album.
That's what I'm factoring in here, which is tricky.
Is he throwing us red herring though? Does he really like
I'm going to say happiness ... is not a fish that you can catch.
It isn't.
I'm going to go with that.
That's a good pick. And I especially like the pun since, you know, red herring, happiness is not a fish. I will go next. I think Rachel's is Clumsy. I think the amount of well-crafted pop rock songs on that, it just outdoes all the other albums they ever did.
Yeah.
Evil, I know that you really like Naveed.
Mm-hmm, I do.
Because we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
And I still think that I'm just going to go with Naveed because I do think that it's the dirtiest, rawest of all of them.
Yeah.
I think that Rain Maida was guttural.
He was just barely Rain at that moment.
He was still a nimbus cloud.
He wasn't. He wasn't. Well, his name's Michael. I didn't know this. Yeah. He gave himself the name Rain. I'm like,
and what? A weird spelling of Rain too. Why?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Do your homework. When did you
honestly
start
didn't.
studying for this, David?
When I was like fucking 12.
They didn't have the internet back then, to be fair.
Did we all? No, Rachel.
No, ask me.
What are our favorite albums of Our Lady Pieces?
We all think the same of each other. I also picked Naveed for Evil and Happiness for David.
Oh, so you
Isn't that
also
interesting?
thought I was giving a red. See, Rachel, you pay attention more than I think you do.
Wait, can I change my answers?
Yes.
Because I think for you, it's definitely Spiritual Machines 2, Electric Boogaloo.
I have been a very vocal advocate of Spiritual Machines too on this podcast. I really do love. I really do love
You
it.
guys are idiots.
Oh my God.
Rain Maida and whoever else. Who's the fucking other guy? You know, was it Chris Eckert or Mike Turner? One of the two. They meet in college. They want to start a band. They start it. Eventually, Jeremy Taggart, the drummer, comes along, who was only 17 fucking years old at the time. That's very, very young. Naveed comes out. Interesting marketing. Their management markets it purposefully away from pop rock and towards college. Mm-hmm. Like they see it as more of an artsy thing than they do something that's going to get play. It does get picked up and it does get released in the United States in 95 by Sony. So their management does a good job and gets them in the office of all these big companies. And there is relative interest in them. The band toured a ton. The band actually opened for, you know who, Evil?
Yeah, I know. So I had to look back.
Evil, I'm going to ask you this. What was the Balance summer tour from Van Halen? I don't know what the fuck this is.
What do you mean? What? You don't know? They released the album Balance, and then they're touring. It has one of my favorite Van Halen songs on it. Actually, it has two of my favorite Van Halen songs on it.
They also opened for Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. They did their thing until 2000 when they grabbed Bob Rock for an album. We will talk about that. Their fifth album was produced by the legendary Bob Rock. I mean, this time period was around when random people started quitting and giving really weird excuses. I know what the real reason was, and we will talk about that reason. They won 10 Much Music Video Awards, which apparently matters in Canada. Mm-hmm. It is the most MMVAs ever awarded to a band, tied with Rachel.
Billy Talent.
Yeah. Trevor's own Billy Talent. I'm really glad that I showed that to Rachel and then she showed him to Trevor. Does he love that joke so much?
He's so mad.
Between 1996 and 2016, OLP was the third best-selling Canadian band and the 9th best-selling Canadian artist ever in Canada. Rachel and Evil, do you know the top 10 most popular Canadian artists of all time?
Alanis Morissette.
Surprisingly not on that list.
Justin Bieber or Drake?
Shocked. I am
That's surprising with Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah.
Just that album alone, I feel like.
You just said Justin Bieber, Drake. Neither of them are on here, which makes me think that something's up with this.
Something's wrong with your list. Who
So
else is in
last
Canada?
night, I'm gonna derail this here because I have a funny story. I did study for this, and I was studying last night.
So proud.
Megan and I went after I ate all of the garbage that I ate that probably destroyed me. We then went to there's this ice cream place called Lovejoy that's I don't know.
Oh, and then you had ice cream.
Yeah, then I had ice cream.
Yeah, it's not a fucking mystery, Evil.
Yeah, I fucking ate a basket of finger steaks, a grilled cheese sandwich with bacon and tomato soup, and then a bunch of ice cream. Yeah, I poisoned myself. I can't eat that. This temple.
That's so funny.
That is my body.
I don't know why. I don't know what it was.
Man.
Maybe something I ate. All I had was finger steaks and grilled cheese and ice cream.
So we get ice cream, and then we have to kill some time before we go pick up Oliver. And I'm like, I need to be studying right now. And she's like, well, put it on. And I listen, and I look at her face, and she's got this look on her face like she's smelled something terrible. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, his voice is not good. I'm like, really? He's like, no. yeah, I don't care for it. She's like, I'm like, no, man, he's popular. I think back in the day, he was kind of a heartthrob and girls liked him. And she's like, not with that voice. She's like, I don't care for it. And then there were
I was
talking about,
expecting
like,
that take at some point because his voice is unique to the point that certain people are going to fucking hate this voice.
Yes. Yeah. It sent us down a rabbit hole of like Canadian music. And she's like, what are there, like 4 bands in Canada? I just
About that.
died laughing at that. And then we looked him up and,
Does she like Rush?
Celine Dion,
Celine
Rush,
Dion is on there.
Shania
Rush
Twain.
also not on that fucking list. Neil Young not on the list. Shania Twain number 2 behind Celine Dion, who's number 1.
Huh.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm sorry.
What's number
Celine
1?
Dion. Number 3, Michael Bublé.
Oh, shit. Where's Svend when you need him?
Yeah.
I know.
He would be
number
so
4.
happy.
Number 4, actually a band I love that I don't know that we've talked about, but the Tragically Hip.
Oh.
Followed by Sarah McLachlan.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the band I knew would be on there, Nickelback.
Well,
and then Avril Lavigne,
can't win 'em
Diana
all.
Krall, Our Lady Peace, and
Diana Krall's Canadian?
Mr.
I know nothing.
And Mr. Bryan Adams.
Right.
Because you guys, everything I do it for you.
That's not true.
So I have to punch back a little bit at this
At the list?
alleged hatred of Canada that you're throwing at me, saying that because there are
Evil,
things.
the more you do this, the more I really do have to edit in a mix of you talking about fucking Canada. I'm like, now I have to do it. Okay.
I have counter arguments. I have 2 counter arguments. One,
Rush.
Rush. Okay, fine. Rush. I have 3.
Okay.
Death from Above, 1979.
Yes.
Letterkenny and Shoresy and Balloons.
Oh.
And Balloons!
Balloons for everybody. Shoresy is my favorite show right now. It's so goddamn good.
Yes, 100%.
I did not know that Alexander Graham Bell was Canadian.
Interesting.
Did not know that.
We kind of talked about personal influence. Rachel has none, obviously. So when Clumsy came out, it was one of like my 2 favorite albums at the time. I remember going to the store when my friend and I, we were young, but we had gotten kind of a not on the books job. We're too young to be legally working,
Right.
Yeah.
but we were working,
Right.
and we got our first paycheck and we were like, holy fuck. Do you know how much McDonald's and CDs that buys? Like, Jesus
Amen.
Christ. When you're a fucking kid, you don't have you have nothing to pick. You don't. There's no phone. There's no anything. And the first trip I took to the store, I bought debut album from Days of the New, Our Lady Peace Clumsy, and then whatever Depeche Mode album had, doesn't matter. Clumsy was my favorite album for at least a year, at least. And then I completely forgot about him until the year 2000, when music became like I needed music to survive. And then I was like, oh shit, Our Lady Peace has fucking 5 albums, and bought them all, became a massive fan. Evil, it sounds like you were consistent from Naveed to Clumsy, and then kind of same thing with you. You kind of forgot they existed.
Yeah, they just kind of fell off the radar completely for me after that, which is unfortunate because...
I mean, Happiness had no radio hits, not in America.
No.
And neither did Spiritual Machines.
No. Well, in kind of like diving into the band's catalog for this, I think I recognize a couple of songs off of Happiness, but that's it. Spiritual Machines... I was surprised at how much of it I like actually knew from the period of time when you and I were talking about it several years ago.
Yeah.
But Naveed and Clumsy, I know those albums back and forth.
I love doing these dissections and the 10 out of 10s for this reason, because I do this thing where, like I said, from like 2000 to 2005 or whatever, I was just I listen to Our Lady Peace all the time. And then you kind of get in your head exactly what every album is to you, and then you forget about it. And then you go back and you listen again. It's like, oh, actually, maybe switch this and this and this. Rachel, from an Our Lady Peace noob, did you notice any sort of arc, or what is the Our Lady Peace discography arc to you?
I don't hate all of it. There are very distinctive periods in their music, and there are some that are liked by me, and there are some that are burnable by me. And so
Same, girl. Same.
not to give too much away. They have a lot of work, so there's a lot to pick apart.
They do have a lot of work.
And they really did evolve, which I do appreciate in a band.
I had a hard time placing Naveed in terms of like music for me. I just remember it being part of like the 90s in quotes. And when I say the 90s, I mean like grunge era,
Right.
Early to mid 90s. I knew it was in there somewhere, but I had no frame of reference as to when. It could have easily been early 90s or later mid 90s. I couldn't, you know. I remember specifically Clumsy. I remember it vividly. It's like summer of 97. I remember it being huge. So that to me is,
we won't tiptoe around it. Superman's Dead was like one.
Huge.
I mean, you could not turn on the radio without hearing that for like
and
3 years.
So, and I was like huge comic book collector at the time, and so like the death of Superman was a big deal. So
I was not a big comic book guy, and I remember like I had like 3 copies of Superman, The Death of Superman, and
Superman.
I could probably
I
still recite you that comic.
still
like,
have 2 copies of it.
Fucking nerds.
I know, I'm such a nerd.
Bash those stupid nerds.
In fact, like I want to tie this into Crash Test Dummies, because 90s era bands who wrote songs about Superman, you know,
Canadian.
as silly as that, also Canadian. There you go. And also a band that you like.
See, he doesn't hate Canadians.
As silly as it sounds, that was like meaningful to me. It's like, oh, there's other people who like this, you know, stupid comic book thing that I'm into.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was.
It's so funny
I don't know,
that
validating
as men, those songs have nothing to do with actual Superman.
Right.
No.
We're just like, oh my God, he said Superman. I'm
Exactly.
in. I'm in.
They're just hinting at that they're nerds too, but they're also rock stars. So you know that they're like drinking and having sex.
Like Superman.
Like Superman.
Rachel, our resident lyric person, who I'm learning that is really just more of an imagery person.
Right.
What do you think of their lyrics? Same thing, like specific times where it's better than others, any gold, any just all crap? What do you feel?
Yes, all of those things. There's definitely also an evolution in their lyrics and what they sing about and how they sing about it.
Yes.
For the most part, I enjoy their lyrics. Some of them need to decipher them, I guess, is a bit much, where they're just a little too vague
They
and open to
definitely have
interpretation.
they have the 90s rock band vague thing going on for sure.
Yeah, they do have really good imagery a lot of the time, and they, for the most part, convey emotion very well. And they're deep lyrics, so a lot of the time.
Her garden blooms, but Sarah can't see straight. She's drinking herself blind.
Yeah.
I'll be waving my hand, watching you drowned, watching you scream. That's a pretty fucking dark lyric if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
We'll get to this later, and I think it speaks to maybe your guys' guess on my favorite album. But the entire songs of both One Man Army and Bored Again by Happiness Is Not a Fish, those all of the lyrics on those songs are unreal to me. Evil, who might as well jump. What do you think about their lyrics?
They're cool. I like that he sings. Can we talk about his like vocal, like his delivery a little bit? Because
I would love to.
While Megan is not a fan, she's like, I don't care for it.
But there's 2 versions.
There's 2 versions.
Yeah. Did you show him later? Did you show her our later Our Lady piece where he just stops doing his thing?
Where he's in a whole different
So
register.
we listened to what was the big hit off of Gravity?
Oh, not all for you. Somewhere Out There.
Yeah, she's like, I like this version of it. I'm like, you would.
That would have been my exact response. You would.
I love her so much. And I actually like that song. That's a good song. It is, but
No comment.
they definitely were doing something different there in that album.
Maybe we should talk about that later.
Let's say up through and including Spiritual Machines, his vocal stylings, I think are super interesting. Nobody sounds like him.
Nobody.
And if anybody does, they're trying to sound like him.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so distinctive.
It's one of the more original vocal patterns I've ever heard. And the ability, singers won't admit it, but singers would kill to have when your voice is able to like crack and break into falsetto, like the way that he does, it brings this weird kind of vulnerable, fragile, broken, scratchy thing that I feel like rock vocalists would fucking kill for, as much as a lot of them wouldn't admit it, because a lot of people will think like, oh, this guy's voice, he's nasally and he's and like, I think it's fucking amazing. I think it's unreal what he does with his voice.
It is very interesting. There's definitely an evolution of that through the first 4 or 5 albums.
I definitely enjoy the earlier contralto soprano version of him. It sounds a little, it's where you start hating me, because you know it's going to happen today at some point. It starts to sound a little basic after the 90s, where it's just like your voice just kind of sounds like other people's and there's nothing really unique about it. And so
God, Rachel.
That frustrated me, because I was like, this is what's the draw-in for me was. But having that completely changed, I understand like messing with it a little bit lyrically and evolving in different ways, but I don't understand just kind of completely changing the way you sing on every single song. I as opposed to just
very, very much understand
experimenting.
That. I want to talk about musicianship. We don't have to waste too much time on this, because I do think that this is a fairly basic 90s rock band. One of the big things that happened with Our Lady Peace, in my humble opinion, is at a certain point that we will talk about, they got rid of their original guitarist in Mike Turner, because they felt that he wasn't talented enough.
Oh.
They felt that he couldn't do what they were wanting him to do. How'd
that work out for him?
So very much fucking disagree with that.
I have the best quote.
I'm ready for it.
Did you read the quote from Rain?
I don't think so.
About Mike leaving?
No.
I don't know if Mike was born to be a guitar player. The studio was a tough place for him, and we were working too hard to make up for it. We felt like we were cheating ourselves. 4 albums is way too fucking long to put up with that. I'm sure he'll do great things, just not with a 6-string instrument.
Jesus Christ.
He really rained on his parade.
Oh my God.
Take a drink.
That's fucking brutal.
Yeah. That's pretty brutal.
Good God. I think he's a fucking awesome guitarist. I do.
He's good.
I think he fit that whole his shit's unique. And he's not going to shred you a solo or anything like that. But his choices in songs and what he's doing to...
They also talk about Jamie Edwards, who was kind of an unofficial member. He toured. He was like a touring member of the band. But I think also was officially part of the band for a short period of time. And Rain specifically said that how he was like really leaning in recording. So I don't know how much he was actually involved. Like this, it's all hearsay, you know. So
well, he was with them officially 99 to 2001, but I do know that Mike Turner did play the guitars on Spiritual Machines. So I think the only thing that Jamie was really on besides touring was Gravity.
Okay.
I think maybe
he also did keyboards.
Yeah.
So he wasn't like the lead
okay,
guitar.
okay. Some of you we have a few hardcore Our Lady Peace fans that are going to be listening to this, and
I would like them to educate us on this. Like there were a few things where I started digging in. I'm like, I don't know what the real answer is here.
Me too. Yes, exactly. Because this
just
band
a lot of hearsay.
You can tell, like, from what Rachel just said with Rain Maida, that quote, like, he's full of shit. They're full of shit. Like, why every single person quit. It's not true. Whatever they said was the reason.
Yeah.
The other part of the musicianship that I want to get to, and I want to preface this by saying that I love Taggart's drumming. That said, I do think that this band suffers at times from same drum patternitis.
Yeah.
He does the exact, that doom, doom, cat, and cat, and cat. He does that same fucking thing like every song. And it's amazing. It fits great. But you do, like, once you get to song 9 of an album, you're like, dude, you got, like, change something up, man. Mm-hmm. But he was, what, 17 when Naveed came out? Fucking.
Right.
He's young.
No, I completely agree. And I agree. In listening, like, it's not bad by any means. He's a good drummer. He's always in the pocket, but he's just not very creative.
Yes. For all we know, it sounds like Rain Maida maybe what he very well could have been like, hey, why are you trying something different? Just do that thing that we know you do.
Well, they did have Matt Cameron step in on a couple of songs.
That's not too rough of a fucking stand-in, right?
Yeah.
Right. And let's save that conversation for another episode. But there's going back to, like, me's like poking into some stuff and, like, having a hard time finding information. That's a whole different subject. So
sub question to that, Matt Cameron, did he play with every single band from the 90s?
Yes.
Right.
At least 3.
Lucky fucking bands. Live albums, side albums, solo projects. No real big side solos that I cared about. Did any of you find anything that you actually liked? Because I didn't.
No. I listened to some of the new stuff and I'm just like, what happened?
Yes. And all of the, unfortunately, all the members that left for whatever reason, all the shit that they started sucked. So it just didn't work. I will say that they did come out with a live album in Baba. I don't remember. I think it was like 2001, 2003, something like that. I think that live album is incredible. I also have a couple of questions. Let's talk about it when we get to those albums. But there are a couple songs on a specific album labeled Live in Toronto. I need to understand why they labeled them that. So we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Where we are at 47 minutes. Let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll get into the albums. Hey, Rachel, it's your own goddamn fault. You should have known what was coming today. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Evil. Do you guys want to talk about some albums?
Let's fucking do it.
Okay, so we're doing something a little different this time, people, and I will tell you why. So, we are not covering every single album, and there are a couple reasons for this. Number one, we're not going to do it anymore. We are all going to study well one specific album. We each pick an album. We're going to study the shit out of that and give you what's good. For everything else, we're just going to give a generic. There are two reasons for this. Number one, a band like this with 10 albums that I'm just going to say right now, all 10 albums don't deserve to be covered.
Oh, shit.
We're not going to do that. And number two, I don't give a fuck anymore. I really don't. We love you guys. We love doing this podcast, but we are working too hard for not enough money, I would say.
Wait, there's money?
So
I like how you say not
really
enough,
isn't,
like there's
no.
any money to be had.
Rachel, I promise you, whatever has happened to my bank account from this podcast, you can have it.
You know what? Just hanging out with you is all the money I need.
That's great. Evil, Naveed was the album that you chose.
It is.
To discuss.
Wait,
so
we got to choose?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you just didn't. Evil, tell us about Naveed.
Naveed. It was their first album. When I figured this out, I'm like, oh, that's why I was a little bit confused to the like timing of it, because it was released in 1994, March of 1994 in Canada, but here in the US and A, it was released basically a year later in March of 1995. And so that's why I think that's part of why my timing felt off, because we've been, doing this 1994 thing. And I'm like, I feel like they were later than that, and this is probably a big chunk of why.
I always thought it was just because Clumsy felt like their debut album to me, but
Yeah,
I didn't.
sure.
Like I said at the beginning, I didn't realize that you were very cognizant of Naveed when it came out, at least in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So it was produced by Arnold Lanni. I think that's how you say his name. He was a longtime collaborator of theirs up until the Bob Rock incident, I guess we will call it. Very influenced by grunge era, I would say. You went into this a little bit early. They kind of marketed it towards the college scene and picked the Birdman as the initial track, which I wouldn't have picked that as initial single, and they
Not
picked
at
that
all.
specifically. No, it's a great song, but I wouldn't that's not single material. They're like, hey, let's try to generate some buzz in the college scene, and then we'll come out with the more commercial stuff later. So I don't know how much of this was the band's decision versus record label and marketing teams. Yeah, but that's pretty calculated. In fact, I found an early interview. I think it was 94. It was the whole band was there, and Rain was saying, he's like, we want to kind of put out music that that's not perfect. And we want to gain fans that will grow along with us as musicians. So, and I'm like, that's an interesting way of doing it.
I like that.
Yeah. And, it didn't do super well, but it kind of got their foot in the door.
Yeah.
I like this album. I think it's one of their heavier albums. It is maybe their heaviest.
I think it's their heaviest album.
In the conversation about his vocal stylings, it's not fully there yet. A little bit more reserved, and I actually kind of prefer that on certain songs. And
I think I think that there is a anger there. In a lot of when that falsetto break that he does, that wavering crack is very fragile and timid. This is not that. This is aggressive and angry.
Very. It did great in Canada, 4 times platinum in Canada.
400,000, just so you know.
Yeah.
That's 4 times platinum in Canada. That's why we don't like Canada. You guys don't fucking buy anything.
Oh, wow.
That's the metric system for you. Also, this was I think the only album with their original guitar player.
Are you talking about Paul Martin?
Original bass player, not guitar player. Original bass player.
Yeah.
Another thing, I tried to figure out how to pronounce his name. Couldn't find no interviews or anything like that where he was mentioned.
Our Lady Peace does the have a guest musician on to do one thing. They do that a lot. On Naveed, they had Phil X come on to play one guitar solo on the whole album.
That is interesting. I'm curious what you guys think, how this album kind of fits into their catalog and their evolution. I came into this thinking this is going to be my favorite for sure.
Oh.
Spoiler
But
alert.
Fucking idiots. Damn it.
No, I love this. I love that take because now I am so excited to hear what your favorite album is.
I was like, oh, I still really like it. It meanders in spots. It's the only one of the kind of, let's just say the 4 main albums that we're covering today. It's the only one that I'm like, I want to skip this track.
Oh.
That surprised me. However, I will say that the tracks that I do like are probably some of my favorite of theirs. So even though as an album, I don't think it's as strong as what they produce subsequently.
I feel like that's exactly, besides thinking that this would end up being your favorite album, I did think for sure that some of your top Our Lady Peace songs would probably come from this album.
Yeah. It's not fully cooked. It's not them fully cooked yet.
I think this is a perfect debut album because of that. Because it is, you feel that these guys aren't ready yet, but for fuck's sake, they are close to something that's gonna be amazing.
Yep.
Exactly what I was going to say actually is that this is a very good debut album. This isn't 16 Stone or when you when your best album is the first one out of the gate. This is a very good album to buy after you've bought the best album. They're so close to being refined and being there, but they're not. But I also feel like I love this album because it very much fits that grunge era, that
Oh, totally.
turning into post grunge right in 94.
100%.
This is one of those albums to me that it's like 4 amazing songs and then
Yeah.
yeah. Just a ton of really good stuff.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of like stuff that sounds like other, like they're figuring stuff out. They're like trying things out. Let's play something in this style, or let's like play a song sort of like this band.
I agree with you. I think that Our Lady Peace is so unique because of A, that specific drum pattern I was talking about, B, what the guitarist choices, and then, but most of all, Rain's voice. That wasn't fully flushed out yet. So they did.
Nope.
They still sounded a lot like, is this going to be another Pearl Jam? Is this another Canadian rock thing? Like, what is
There
this
was a little
gonna
bit
be?
of, this is mid-90s grunge product, a little bit.
Yes.
Kind of going back to the idea of like some bands who release their first album and it's their best, and then it's downhill from there. And then there's other bands that their first album doesn't sound anything like what they produce. That's not the case here. There are like the bones, you know, the framework of what they turn into is definitely there, but it's just not quite hit that full Our Lady Peaceedness yet.
They had not come to peace yet.
I had to look back because I did go to see Van Halen on the Balance tour, but Our Lady.
Which tour was that
was
one?
the Balance tour.
What did they tour on?
What was
I
that
don't
about?
understand.
Brother Kane was the opener. 2 shows previous, Our Lady Peace was the opener. So I somehow missed getting to see them live.
You and me both, brother. So in the year 2001, Seattle has this radio station called The End. It probably sucks now, but it was amazing. It was the pirate radio of Seattle.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it's in Seattle, it's like, just because it's Seattle doesn't mean it's better, but it was an amazing radio station. And they did a huge festival every year at the Gorge. And I went in 2001. Actually, Lefty flew up with me and went with me. It was Our Lady Peace, Cypress Hill, Papa Roach,
Ooh.
Tenacious D, Jimmy World,
Nice.
The Strokes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, this was 2001. So
Yeah.
like the Tenacious D
amazing.
album that had just come out, The
Yeah.
Strokes. I think I'm forgetting. I remember when The Strokes started playing, nope, there were like 30 of us up there singing. Like nobody knew who the fuck they were. It was crazy.
Wow.
Amazing.
Our Lady Peace, Rain got pneumonia 2 days before and he couldn't be there.
Oh.
And they came back to Seattle to do a makeup show and I was out to see. So I never got to see them play
Yeah,
live.
I haven't seen them.
Isn't
Never
that
seen 'em.
sad? Rachel, tell us about the album that you did not pick, but I gave to you anyway in hopes that you would like it.
I mean, I did. You picked well. I didn't know we were allowed to pick.
Well, you're not.
I mean, when I send a text saying, hey, give me what Our Lady Peace album you want to study, all you have to do is answer it.
They don't remember that text, David.
Well, it happened.
Okay.
In your defense, I don't think Evil answered it either.
Yeah, I did.
Just so you guys know, they answer about 27% of my texts.
We answer all the texts. Do we answer all the questions?
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes
Okay.
non sequitur is the MO of that text thread.
Texting is not where we're
Yeah.
professional.
No.
Where are we professional?
When we interview other bands.
And guess what, people? We're not doing that anymore. So, okay, Rach.
Clumsy 1997. This was released January 23rd, 1997. Second album by Our Lady Peace. Probably their most successful album. Their most well-known album.
Actually, I laughed at that.
I don't know numbers. What's that?
I laughed when you said that because I was like, duh, obviously. But Gravity was really fucking popular,
Gravity charted higher
Yeah.
in the US.
but it didn't sell as much.
No, it didn't sell as much.
Okay. So Clumsy sold way more actually, but yeah, Gravity charted higher. Okay.
Yeah. I hate bands that are going over, from the 90s to the 2000s because the way that we listen to music is so different. And that's when we were stealing music, is when Gravity came out. And so
Oh, I see what you're saying.
people were buying less because people could pirate stuff.
That's a good point.
This goes into a little more post-grunge, a little more alternative rock. It features, the same heavy guitar, and it gets Rain into the high point of his vocals. This is where people start listening and loving him. This is where they come to the States and everybody buys all of the albums. Superman's Dead, what we already talked about, is the biggest banger that you cannot get away from, no matter how you try. Cohesive sound, emotional lyrics, and the depth of the lyrics. It's stuff that we talked about.
Did you write that or did you steal that? That was good. The what? The depth of the, what did you say?
I don't know. Words.
So you stole it. Okay.
I don't know what I said. It's been seconds.
Did you guys see where Billy Corgan accused him of ripping him off?
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Of Rain of ripping him off?
I mean, it's a very Billy Corgan thing, but he's like, oh, he's doing my thing. It's like, no, Billy, you just have a weird fucking voice. Like, you don't sing in falsetto. Yeah. You just sound like a fucking chipmunk.
Nobody sounds like, I mean,
just kind of
Billy Corgan is Billy Corgan.
Yeah. I don't see it at all.
I can see how Billy would do that.
I could see where Billy would do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Peaked at number 1 in Canada. Number 1 on the Billboard Heat Seekers in the United States, 76
Sounds
on
fake.
Billboard 200. This is the height of their lineup for me, personally.
Height of their lineup. I like that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rain, Duncan, Jeremy, and Mike. I would agree with you on that. I think very, very fucking good lineup. Okay, all I'm gonna say about Clumsy is I have beef with one thing. Actually, fuck, no. Because you know what we didn't do? Evil, what is your favorite song on Naveed?
Oh.
Rewind.
Starseed.
Starseed. It's not a bad song. Almost at all.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Like, not even a question.
Wow. So it's like number 1 with a bullet for you.
Yeah.
All right. Rachel?
I hate that I did this, but Super Satellite.
Why do you hate that you did that?
I don't know. I don't like the popular song this time.
Super Satellite is the perfect hook. That when he's doing that super sad, and then that get to that little
that's violent. That's a violent hook. That Super Satellite. That's
it
like
it is.
When we were talking about lyrics and I couldn't find any earlier, Super Satellite. I've read the Bible. I've read Dylan, and I'm reading people now because it's much more chillin'.
Yeah.
Good stuff. He had some good stuff.
Chillin'. Right?
I know, it was chilling.
I said Super Satellite too. So
Twins.
Wow.
Yeah. That hook is just that's like one of my favorite hooks of all time. I love it. Okay, let's go back to Clumsy.
Let's do it.
I mean, everybody knows Clumsy. We know Clumsy. It's Clumsy. I picked my 10 out of 10 before studying for this. And then I get to Clumsy and I'm like, wow, there really is not a fucking bad song on this album. Not only is there not a bad song, but every song on this is really kind of fucking weird and different and amazing. Here's my biggest beef. Our Lady Peace, and they do this a few times in their discography, they could have had one of the greatest rock songs of all time in Superman's Dead. But then they decide like 3 minutes in that they have to do this weird fucking doesn't anybody ever know that the world's a subway like tangent for a minute at the end of the... Do another fucking verse and just bow out of the song. Give us that 3 minute Superman's Dead. And I've always had a fucking issue with the end of Superman's Dead.
I 100% disagree.
I love it.
I fucking love that they do that. It's so quirky.
Just because it's quirky?
It is a left turn.
It's such a left turn.
They can get into this kind of format where it's like build up to soaring chorus and it feels a little samey. Listening to like their entire catalog, I'm like, oh, here's the song that does this. Here's the song that does this.
For sure.
Superman's Dead, that ending, it like breaks that. Like they could have. Yes, they could have.
Y'all know it. Y'all listened to it 100 times. This would have been the easy pick for the 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. This is not what our 10 out of 10. This is not what we're doing, but that's kind of, I like doing that. This one's too easy. Someday we'll do a Clumsy 10 out of 10. Is it a 10 out of 10? I don't know.
The cover always, I'm like, why, what? The album was going to be titled Trapeze. And that was a track. That was one of the tracks that they cut. And then they renamed it after that.
Rachel.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song on Clumsy?
Did it again. It's Superman's Dead. And it was just exposure. this was the first album that I listened to when I started studying. And that was the first song that I heard. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know Our Lady Peace. That's a banger. It's just a good one.
It is. I don't. This is goddamn impossible for me. It really is. There are so many songs on this album that are so good. I can go 1 through 11, honestly. I will say Big Dumb Rocket. I think it's kind of like a perfect rock song.
Interesting.
Speaking of good lines, it's mostly you and mostly me and a tired gun that's not empty. That's good. I don't know what it means, but it's fucking good. Evil, what's your favorite song?
Okay, so I came into this like knowing, just like I knew that Naveed was going to be my top album, I came in knowing that Superman's Dead was going to be my favorite song on this album.
But
It
it's
might
not.
not be.
Uh-oh.
And I just remember what I was going to say. There's another song that does what you wanted out of Superman's Dead, where it like it just goes into the chorus, and I'm like, it doesn't do it for me. And it's Def Leppard's Photograph. I don't like the way that song ends. Like they have such it needed to go to a left turn for me. It needed something awesome in the outro to match that fucking cool chugging guitar before the main. Anyway,
That's great.
yeah, whatever. Superman's Dead is a fucking great track, but I'm angry at you for stealing my thunder because Big Dumb Rocket out of left field completely, like I'm like, this song fucking rocks. And I was just out on a walk listening to the album. I had like a mix of a bunch of their songs and that one hit, and I'm like, this song is awesome.
It's so good.
It is.
Wow, look at us agreeing. I've never talked to God before tonight, but I'm disgusted by it. He's got amazing lines. He has amazing lines. That is Clumsy, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, don't be mad at us because you're a fucking Our Lady Peace fanboy and we aren't doing a whole episode. We will do an episode someday on Clumsy. I promise. We've got to get to the rest of these albums on Thursday. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We're going to talk the rest of the albums, pick some favorites in our next episode. Rachel, I promise you, we'll speed things up so you can make your really, really important movie.
Thank you.
Garfield, starring Chris Pratt.
It's going to be horrible.
Are you going out for lasagna afterwards?
Hopefully.
You gonna push a fucking dog off a table? We love you. Good night and good luck.